The biggest thing is you just got to get started and then you got to stay committed. I always say that being consistently consistent is what wins. And I truly believe that.
Investing for retirement takes time, patience, and consistency. Eventually, you'll reach a point where you don't need to contribute any more money to hit your retirement goals, and that's what we call Coast Fire. On our Coast Fire segment today, we're going to interview Jace Mattinson from the Millionaires Unveiled Podcast. Jace and his wife Stacy hit this Coast Fire milestone in their early 30s. Today, we're going to learn how they accomplished this family financial goal and how this affects their journey going forward. Welcome to the show, Jace.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Good to connect again. We've known each other probably over 5 years now, so I'm glad we could reconnect and share your fun story. Let's go through the Coast Fire 5. These are short, quick questions and answers that help people understand a little bit more about your Coast Fire situation. The first question is, how much have you invested for retirement?
Yeah, I know your audience is a little geared towards kind of market investments. So I would sum that of just my market investments up at north of $1 million at this point between retirement accounts, brokerage, et cetera.
That is very cool, man. Very cool. And how old are you and your spouse today?
35 and 36.
35 and 36. And we won't ask who the oldest one is because I don't want to offend anybody.
I'm the oldest.
Okay, good. And question number 3. Based on your Coast Fire calculations, how much will you have in retirement if you don't contribute anything else?
Yeah, I mean, on a rough calculation, you're probably anywhere from 10 to 25 million is probably where that lands, depending on what kind of rate of your return. I've averaged, and I know some people think this is crazy, but I've been investing since I was a teenager in some capacity. And when I log into my T. Rowe Price account, my average right now is 12.46%. So
wow, that's
been
awesome,
20
man.
whatever years.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I love that percentage and the ability for it to continue to grow and go where you need to go in retirement. Now, if we were talking about retirement, this would be like 60s for you, something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
If we're doing the
traditional
math.
age,
Yeah.
most of those accounts, I'm probably not going to touch till I'm of 60 plus, let's call it.
Exactly. Excellent. Very cool. Okay, and then question number 4, if we were to bake that out, let's call it that 10 million, that number. How much income could that provide you in retirement?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably looking at a few $100,000 conservatively if, put it in some bond funds and pull down, whatever that interest is, 300,000-400,000 a year probably. And if I wanted to take it down to zero by the time I hit 85 or whatever, it might be a little bit more than that, but it's, give or take.
That's incredible. Okay, and then how much income do you and Stacy need to live comfortably today?
That's an interesting question because I feel like for a long time it was, we could live on pretty minimal, 60, 70, 80 grand because that's what we did for the greater part of a decade. But as we've had more kids and invested more in, getting some of our time back with certain things, I feel like that number has kind of gone up a little bit to probably 10 to 15 grand a month, depending on how much we're traveling or whatever.
Got it. Yeah. So in short, this is going to be well more than you'll need probably in retirement based on your current living lifestyle
Correct.
today. Yeah.
5
That's
kids right now
man.
is expensive. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So you have 5 kids. I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's
5
incredible,
kids.
man. What are their ages?
6, 5, 3, and 10-month-old twins.
Wow, man. Yeah, you guys have a big, busy household right now. Very cool. Congratulations. That's so
Thanks.
cool. So now that we know that your situation and your numbers, take us back a little bit. You talked about investing very early. What got you motivated that early?
I always had an interest in personal finance, I think. I mean, I was trying to hustle a buck from the time I was a kid. I remember my mom helping me make these Jace yard care flyers, and I was out mowing lawns and doing stuff at 8 years old around the neighborhood. I was, weed eating and chopping off my neighbor's flowers. But, I was always kind of interested in earning money and investing. I mentioned T. Rowe Price, and I've been loyal to them because honestly, they're the only ones that were willing to send me prospectus as a 10-year-old kid back then. And so I made my first investments in there, and I've expanded that beyond that, since then. But I've continued to just put money away. My dad was really instrumental in kind of sitting down and showing me, some of the delayed gratification, what things could look like, trying to understand for himself what things look like, because he didn't really learn it. So he was learning it and trying to teach me at the same time. And so, I just took an interest in it and started realizing that, hey, it's not the biggest deal to sacrifice some of this now, because man, the multiples that this can become and what the lifestyle can lead to, later, I was more interested in than, buying the newest video game or whatever it might have been when I was a teenager. And then I started making some good money because I was doing a lot of yard work, yard projects. I had a paper out. So as a teenager, I was pulling in some decent income, and that just kind of continued. I mean, there's been times in my life where I've held up to three jobs. I'm working like 80 hours a week through various parts of college to graduate debt free and continue putting money into investments. And that just kind of spiraled and continued into my 20s. And my wife was on board to kind of give up a decade in some respect to kind of pile and pile and pile the money away. And that's what we've done.
That's incredible. And that decade bared a lot of fruit for you guys. Obviously, you have $1 million in your investment accounts. I'm assuming outside of the investment accounts, you guys have also done well with real estate as well. Is that true?
Yeah, real estate and honestly business at this point is a more lion's share of my portfolio, and the income that kicks off from business investments is it kind of dwarfs everything else. But yeah, I take kind of a three-legged stool approach between real estate, the market, and business.
That's cool. And then you took us up into your 20s. You guys met. What have you done for income over the past probably 10 plus years then?
Yeah, so I'm a CPA by trade. I worked in public accounting, one of the big four, for a couple years, and then went out to an outsourced firm. My wife was a dietitian. Worked in the hospital for a couple years, and then in kind of food service management. And once we started having kids, she did a little bit more on the media side and did things here and there, but had primarily chosen to stay home. And so, as my career has progressed, I've been an executive in the building material space and in private equity for the greater part of the last 7 or 8 years. And she's chosen to stay home with our kids and raise them, and that's worked out. And have done side projects here and there and side jobs that have made sense, and then has helped me with real estate and business and all the things that I've kind of got our hands involved in at this point. But that's I spend most of my time in the building material space, and have for the last 7 8 years now.
So you continued that multiple jobs thing from childhood now until you're in your early 30s, is what you're saying?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I guess you could look at it like that.
and having 5 kids. That's talk about multiple jobs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Talk to us about you talked about the about of investments that you have. People are wondering, okay, what does that mean? Is this 401ks, Roth IRAs? Talk to us about what those investments mean to help educate people out there.
Yeah, so it's a combination of all the above. I have invested in my Roth IRA for a number of years, and maxed that out, I think, every year but one, and continue to do so. You talk about Coast Fire, and there was a point in my life, probably 5 years ago, I was like, I think in a couple of years here, I'll stop investing in my Roth. Partly I'm doing the back door every year with income limitations and whatnot, but I just got to the point, I'm like, this is really 7 8 grand. Like, why stop it? Like, I'm just going to continue to do this. I'm in the habit of it, and it really doesn't change my financial life in the negative. The other thing you start to think about, as I've gotten kind of more risk in business and some of these other things, is, there's a risk mitigation strategy that goes along with putting money into retirement accounts and being able to protect those from creditors if things, were ever to go south down the road. So I've just continued to put money in there. I mean, you could probably say I basically, nearly maxed it out for almost 20 years. And once my wife and I got married, we started putting into hers as well. And then, I've continued to invest. I've never actually maxed out a 401k. That's always, I've just done to the match, and then have put money into my HSA as well. So I actually have over 6 figures in an HSA, which it might be weird for most people, but I've never used it. I just keep piling the money in there. I plan at some point, I kind of joke with my wife that it's my Ferrari account, because one day I'm going to, like, all these medical bills we've had from all these kids that I'm saving receipts on and everything, I'm gonna be like, it's going to add up where I can, like, buy a sports car one day, and I'll just withdraw it all and cash in all those receipts in my HSA one day. But Yeah, that's kind of been the journey. I mean, I've continually put money in there. I still put money in a 401k, but I don't max it out. Just kind of get the match that we're willing to give as a company. And then, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the gist, and continue to put that pretty much in index funds. I do hold a few mutual funds that I invested in T. Rowe Price, like from the early days. There's a media and telecom account and a healthcare account that I've been investing in forever, and I continue to do that, and then a global technology fund. But outside of that, it's pretty much all index funds for the rest of it.
That's incredible. Now, we talked about some big numbers that this could turn into based on where you're growing. Do you ever take a look at those numbers and say, wow, that's going to be plenty? Could I modify my lifestyle in any way where I'm enjoying more of my time right now? Or have you guys taken the steps to buy back a lot of your time through some of the moves you've made as a family? I guess, does that large number out there give you pause, being like, okay, maybe I should slow down a little bit? Or are you happy with the pace that you have right now of life?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I question this often because I'm like, at what point do you just let compounded interest kind of like take its course, and do you stop contributing and spend more? And like I said earlier, like I just thought I would, but you get to this point, and I kind of really thought it would be around 35 that I'd stop, and I just it's just a habit. It's just too easy to just put in there every year, I guess, at this point. And we have been able to do that and still kind of increase some things in our lifestyle as income's grown, as investments have performed well. And so there's not a there's not a cost to it, so to speak, in terms of like, an opportunity cost that I'm missing out on. Like, I'm not giving up something to put it in there now. In fact, I've actually taken a step farther, and now, my kids work in one of the businesses, or I guess two of the businesses now. And, I'm putting money into their Roths at this point. And, this is a tough conversation for a lot of people, and something that I've put a lot of thought into personally, of like, how do I, one, educate, but then two, how, I don't want to get to the point with, hey, yeah, this thing ballooned, and then I don't spend any of it along the way,
Hmm.
and my kids end up with a ton of money when I die, but they're in their 50s and 60s, and they don't even really care to have it then. So we've tried to be a little more intentional of like, how do we kind of help them? And my plan is, and we'll see how long I can keep the secret, but I plan to probably try to, essentially contribute to their Ross for what they earn, while they're in the house, and then try to do a matching situation as they get older, and hopefully that they'll choose to do that, and let me match with them. And then, when they get to about late 20s, early 30s, I'm probably just gonna break the news and be like, sorry guys, like, I don't know if you're gonna hate me or love me, but I've kept a big secret, and here you go. Like, this is your account that I never told you about. And there's a lot of tax advantages that go into some of these things, and maneuvering money around, essentially, and paying kids for, the value that they provide to your business, which right now they're young and isn't much, but it's something. I mean, you look at the numbers and what we're able to put away for them. It's the equivalent of them maxing something out when they're 30 or 25, so that's kind of the approach that we've taken, and we'll just kind of continue to play it out. I don't think that I'll ever stop maxing out my Roth and HSA at this point. It's just too habitual at this point, and it's just too easy to do. And the dollars aren't huge where it really puts a dent in the budget by any means. I mean, I do it every year on the first week of the month, or first week of the year, and get it all done and out of the way and move on.
Yeah, that's incredible if you're able to save like that and also contribute to generational wealth for your kids. I would say it's probably due to your impressive income for what you've been able to do from your business. As are you mostly are you not, you're not a full-time CPA anymore outside of your business? Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm not practicing CPA. I still hold a license. It's still current, but I'm in the building material space. I'm an executive CFO of a company, essentially. And then
Yeah.
outside of that, I've got various other business investments that we've invested in, some franchises, and bought some other, kind of small businesses. And, the returns in that have been phenomenal. I mean, most of these things that we buy or have started, trade in a 3x to 4x max. And it's hard now that I've built up some of the skill set in that, and also with like mergers and acquisitions just in general. I've done almost over 100 now. It's hard
Wow.
not to continue to do that. It's kind of in the
Absolutely.
blood now. So
That's incredible. And it sounds like you really enjoy it.
I do.
That's the most important thing, is that you're enjoying what you're doing, you're making great money doing it, and it's helping you live a great life. So I don't see why you would want to pull back or spend less time doing it, because you're enjoying it. Now, somebody's listening right now and they want to achieve Coast Fire like you, and they're just getting started with regards to understanding how investments can make a big difference in their future. What's one small step that they could take following this interview to build up their investments like you have?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is you just got to get started, and then you got to stay committed. I always say that being consistently consistent is what wins, and I truly believe that. I mean, if you do something, you may not get the best return. Maybe you picked an index fund 500 versus 1,000, whatever it might be, and the return's off a little bit compared to maybe another fund that you could have picked, or what your peer group, or maybe you picked one that had too high of fees or whatever. Like, the end of the day, like you're still going to win. But if you aren't consistently consistent with that, you don't do it every year, every month, or every paycheck or whatever, what have you, you drop off here or there, or you decide that other things are more important, then, it's who knows how it'll end up for you in some respect. If you do that and you can consistently, do those things over the course of 10, 20, 30 years, I mean, literally decades, like, you're going to win. You're going to be able to be to that Coast Fire. And maybe it doesn't happen in your 30s. Maybe it doesn't even happen in your 40s. But I've had various people on my podcast, met various people throughout life that a lot of them point to a particular decade or two where it took them to get to where they are, at that point.
Yeah, like you said, you and Stacy had that hustle decade, and it made just a huge difference in where you are today, and being able to have some time freedom, as well as the ability to help grow generational wealth for your family. Jace, this is fantastic. And speaking of your podcast, tell people where they can connect with you and learn more about what's going on in your world.
Yeah, I publish a podcast weekly at Millionaires Unveiled. I've been doing it now for 8 years. I'm on LinkedIn a little bit here and there too, but that's where I spend, time essentially in the online world is through that podcast. And it's not really about me, but we are the host of the show, and we've talked to, everyday millionaires and all the way up to $1 billion. So
yeah, that is wild, man. Yeah. Jace and I have had a chance to be on each other's shows over the years, and I'm glad that I can have him back here to have this fun conversation. Jace, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. Want to see how close you are to Coast Fire? Well, check out our free Coast Fire calculator right on our website at marriagekidsandmoney.com. You can access it with the links below. You insert a little bit of information, hit the calculate button, and see how close you are to hitting Coast Fire. Check it out.